That's my major worry for Chelsea going into this game, is that they've got players who I think don't care.
If Tuchel listens to this, as I'm sure he will, he would have heard all the Mendy stats, and he might think, bloody hell, he needs to put Kepa in goal.
I'm absolutely mind blown by that stat, because he is playing well. He's genuinely playing well. I have to double check here, Josh.
Yeah.
But Salah has failed to score in 15 of his last 17 for Liverpool.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, maybe someone's pick doesn't look so ridiculous after all. Welcome back to Baller from Who Scored in association with Ladbrokes Five-a-Side. Before we get into this week's big talking points, there are literally 4 very easy, very simple ways for you to get involved in Ladbrokes Five-a-Side, and that is pick a formation. And I'm going to go through ours in a little bit of time. Choose 5 players. That's why it's called Five-a-Side. Think about it. Select the stats, and as Raj just found out about 3 minutes ago, you can actually amend them up and down a little bit as well, so you can make it easier or harder and better odds or worse odds, whatever you fancy, and enter your team. That's it. It's that easy. Only requires a minimum of a £1 bet, and you've got the chance to win your share of £1,000 through exclusive cash league that we're doing, and we'll be running through where we think the value lies, or not, or some absolutely outrageous picks, I'm sure, as well, with our teams at the end. So let's get into it then. A little bit of a goalkeeper controversy, I reckon, especially when it comes to picking my team. But Edouard Mendy is the one that is in form. Josh, I believe you're taking us away with this one.
Yeah, I think if you remember back to the League Cup final between these two sides, it was Edouard Mendy who produced that stunning display, only to be taken off before the penalty shootout. And then obviously Kepa came on for the penalties and missed the decisive one that cost them. And we sort of looked into the stats. And I'm not necessarily saying that Tuchel's decision to take Mendy off there had some sort of effect, but his performance have actually been quite poor since then. Looking into the stats this season, heading into that final, he was the 6th best rated goalkeeper in the Premier League, and now he's the 4th worst since then. He went from having one of the best save success rates in the Premier League, and now it's the worst at just 53%. He's only saved 16 of the 30 shots he's faced in all competitions since the final. And he's also committed 3 errors leading to an opposition shot in those 16 games. So normally you'd think
that's gone well under the radar, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's come as a bit of a surprise, because Chelsea's dip it's sort of been all over the pitch, really. They've had problems in different positions. But yeah, Mendy's form has flown a bit under the radar. He's kept 7 clean sheets in the 16 games since the final. But in those games where he's kept those clean sheets, he's only averaged less than a save a game. So he's not really having to do much in those matches. It's the defence in front of him that's sort of been limiting what he's had to do. And when you're coming up against Liverpool, who averaged the 2nd most shots on target per game in Europe's top 5 leagues, that's not the trajectory you want from your goalie. You've got Luis Diaz and Mo Salah, who are really high volume shooters. Sadio Mane is obviously in brilliant form. We'll discuss those a bit later on in the show. But yeah, up against them, you want a goalkeeper that you know is going to keep those shots out. And on current form, Mendy's not really doing that.
I'm shocked. Raj, did you expect that?
No, definitely not. It's not been talked about much. He had a big high with the AFCON win as well. His stock was really high, so I didn't expect that at all. So yeah, it's a nice twist on things, and maybe Tuchel might even lean towards Kepa. Who knows? Well, maybe someone's pick doesn't look so ridiculous after all. Loftus-Cheek, he's been a regular for the last 6 weeks for Chelsea. Raj, I'll come straight back to you on this one. What do you reckon? You think he's going to be in the mix for Chelsea this weekend?
Yeah, I think so. It looks like Chelsea having a few fitness problems in midfield as well. Obviously, Kante's only just returned to full training. Kovacic picked up a knock against Leeds. So maybe Tuchel, with Loftus-Cheek's form, goes with him in midfield. I've always been a big Ruben Loftus-Cheek fan ever since he burst through under Maurizio Sarri in 2018-19. Then, unfortunately, had that Achilles injury. And ever since then, it's taken him a while to get back to the full version of himself, really. I think Loftus-Cheek at his best, there's 3 things you can expect from him. There's ball winning, there's ball carrying, and there's just immense physicality on the pitch. And I think we're seeing that version again come out. And I think Tuchel even talked about that. He said in a recent press conference that it's about Loftus-Cheek trusting himself more than anything. He's got all the talent in the world. I think the final step for Loftus-Cheek now, he is exhibiting all those traits again, but is converting those into decisive final actions. Sometimes I feel he can hold on to the ball a bit too long. Sometimes he can pick the wrong pass.
But I think there's been some very encouraging performances, not in midfield only, at wing back as well. If you remember against Real Madrid in the second leg, he was playing as a wing back off the ball, but then drifting into midfield on the ball. And he played brilliantly, really, at the Bernabeu. And he also played well in the FA Cup semi-final, which we previewed against Crystal Palace in midfield. Kovacic got taken off. Loftus-Cheek got dropped into that midfield position in the middle of the first half, and he scored as well. So, yeah, I think there's very encouraging signs. Hopefully this is him getting back to his best.
I remember when Loftus-Cheek came through as an 18-year-old, and that was a massive moment for Chelsea, because it was supposed to be a massive moment because youngsters at that time just didn't get an opportunity. It's been 7.5 years since Loftus-Cheek first made his debut, which seems mental, and he's only started 28 Premier League games for them in that time. So more youngsters are coming through now, obviously, and obviously it's not really been anything to do with Loftus-Cheek, but now finally we're hopefully seeing what he can produce. He started 9 of their last 12 games in all competitions, and we actually looked into Chelsea's, excluding substitute appearances, we looked into who have been Chelsea's best performers this season, and only Reece James actually has a higher rating than Loftus-Cheek. And it's hit like Mendy's form, which has been on the decline. Loftus-Cheek has sort of flown under the radar, and that Chelsea, they've had this dip in form prior to midweek, but Loftus-Cheek, which makes, I think, his form more surprising, that he's not been put into a team that's already functioning strongly. He's had to play well in a team that's not full guns blazing. I think that's what's made it quite interesting. I think, as Raj said, his skill set is so unique. And when he first came through at Chelsea, many thought that he would be a player that played closer to the strikers. But what Tuchel's done, he's dropped him deeper, where he can have more influence on the ball. There's more space to carry it forward. There's more room for him to demonstrate his physical attributes. And again, looking into the best midfielders, so we broadened that. So he's second for Chelsea in terms of all of their players. We broadened that to central midfielders, so players in his position. And obviously you've got Kevin De Bruyne, who's top. Thiago is second. Kovacic is third, I believe. But Loftus-Cheek sneaks into the top 10 in the whole Premier League. So it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, Kante's just coming back to fitness. Kovacic is a big injury doubt. It'll be interesting to see whether Loftus-Cheek comes back into the side for this game, because it's going to be a tough matchup against Liverpool's midfield, and they're going to perhaps need some exuberance to get in amongst it.
I used to say Chelsea had 6 midfielders that would start for United, and I actually think I undercooked it a little bit.
Yeah,
I think you and I would get a game for United these days, Steve. That's the thing.
All right, no need for that. Sadio Mane is probably one of the most astute signings of Jurgen Klopp's reign, I would argue, at Liverpool. Hell of a career he's had since he joined them. Is Diaz about to kick him out of the first team, though? What do you reckon?
Well, I think it's interesting, since the Luis Diaz signing, as you say, that was kind of the assertion that Mane would then be relegated to the bench, because he's not been the best Mane we've seen in the last 18 months. But he's undergone a role change. He's now playing a lot more centrally for Klopp's side. Like going back to his Southampton days, really, he played as a second striker for them alongside Graziano Pella. Now he's playing as a false 9, taking kind of Firmino's previous mantle. And I think that's been a necessary tactical adaptation to his game, because I think he lost that kind of explosive 1v1 pace out wide, and now he's being used more through the middle. He's not having to rely on that as much. And Diaz is providing that pace out wide, whilst Mane is now having the ball to feet, a lot more linking play, and getting on the end of things in the box as well. Like we saw, Diaz linked with Mane against Aston Villa for the winner. So yeah, I think it's been a very interesting role change, and I think it's been better when using Diogo Jota as a 9, because Jota has a few holes in his link play. I think he's very rudimentary in that kind of skill set. He's got a touch of a trampoline at times, even though he does score quite a few goals. I think Mane's an upgrade in that kind of area.
When Luis Diaz first signed, I did. Well, I don't care about Liverpool, but I thought that Mane would be the one to leave, considering the contract situation with him and Salah. But he's just had a new lease of life since Diaz has come in. And I doubt this is by design, because Liverpool didn't actually plan to sign Diaz in January. But because Diaz hit the ground running so quickly, Jurgen Klopp had to sort of find a way to get Mane in the team, and putting him in that central striker role, as Raj said, he's brought the best back out of him, and also seen parts of his game that I personally didn't really expect to see, like the drop in deep when he helped tear Manchester United to shreds. Like that, those sort of moves I didn't really typically expect to see from Mane, certainly anymore at this stage of his career. He scored in 7 of his last 10 starts for Liverpool in all competitions, and obviously he's just come back from AFCON with so much energy, and obviously then he helped knock Egypt out of for the World Cup as well. He scored 12 times in total since coming back from AFCON, which is only 2 shy of Jota and Salah combined. So he's now he's now sort of blossomed into their main goal threat, which you wouldn't have said it before the turn of the year.
Is this stat correct? I have to double check here, Josh.
Yeah.
But Salah has failed to score in 15 of his last 17 for Liverpool.
Yeah, that is true. It's mental, isn't it? At the start of the year, I thought there was going to be a big impact on one of Mane or Salah, depending how AFCON went, just because of the emotional attachment. I remember saying it before the tournament started, but I didn't expect it to be quite so severe where Salah's now not scoring at all. To not score in 15 of 17 of his last 17 games is outrageous for Salah, for most strikers really in the Premier League, and especially for the elite, but especially for Salah. Up until Christmas, he was the best player in the world. He had a direct hand in 24 league goals in 12 league matches, which was double any other player in the Premier League. Streaks ahead of anyone else in every department. And now, he's just completely gone off the ball. But what's interesting is that his scoring's not been for a lack of trying. He's actually averaging more shots per 90 since AFCON than he was before. So he's still in these positions to shoot, but he's just not showing the clinical ruthlessness that we're used to seeing from him. But for what he's made up for that in a way with the assists. He's got 5 assists in his last 7. And obviously people talk about Harry Kane being one of the most complete forwards because his passing range is a joke at times. Salah's arguably even better as a playmaker. Since he's returned to Liverpool, he ranks 2nd in the Premier League for assists behind Kevin De Bruyne. He's reached double figures for goals and assists in 3 of his 5 seasons for Liverpool now. And as much as he's not scoring, you can bet that no left back in the Premier League or in Europe will want to face Salah, and that will be the case on Saturday. He might not be in the best goal scoring form, but he's going to give you hell, and he can also set up the 2 of his other world-class teammates up front.
I'm absolutely mind blown by that stat because he is playing well. He's genuinely playing well, and he's a threat. And obviously, we've seen that firsthand up close how much of a threat he is. I need to lie down and go look at a lake after that. That's absolutely sent me west. And here's another one that, for all of us that are hoping that the quadruple word doesn't get uttered much more after Saturday, Chelsea are unbeaten in their last 5 against Liverpool, apart from the League Cup, which was on penalties. What's going on there?
Yeah, I think you're right to mention it. I think Tuchel has had a pretty decent setup against Klopp. If we look back to the Carabao Cup final, that I think Liverpool do have issues playing against that five defender formation, especially with someone like Rudiger, who's really limited Salah in Liverpool versus Chelsea games. He gets up to him very tight and aggressive, and he stops Salah from turning, which is what he needs to do to be that playmaker that Josh talked about. And Rudiger's kind of limited that. And I think that free centre-back system, it just matches it perfectly against the Liverpool front three. And then they've got that screening presence in front, whether it's Kante or Kovacic normally. And it's worked really well, and it's stopped Liverpool from really penetrating them. And then in the Carabao Cup final, I'd say Chelsea probably had the better of the open play chances as well. Kai Havertz was causing mayhem. It was just down to the finishing of the likes of Mount and Pulisic, who couldn't put those chances away. So there's definite optimism there, I think, because the likes of Van Dijk and Matip, and even Konate to some extent, they like playing against more physical strikers. But these kind of nippy Chelsea players, Werner, Mount, Pulisic, even Havertz, they've caused them issues in the past, and that does kind of make me wonder about Tuchel's team selection as well for the FA Cup final and what attackers he goes for.
Yeah, what makes it so much more interesting now is that Lukaku, obviously, he's come back into form. The last 2 games, he scored 3 of their 5 goals. They've been 2 of his 3 top-rated performances in a Chelsea shirt this season. And when they played Everton at the start of May, I thought Lukaku, I didn't think it could get any bleaker for Lukaku. Chelsea were 1-0 down, and Tuchel used all 3 of his subs, and Lukaku was still on the bench. He didn't come on, and Chelsea lost that game 1-0. And I thought from that point, I thought it's done now for Lukaku. He's probably going to leave this summer. But he's come back. He started their last 2 games. He scored in both of them. He's shown signs of a connect with his Chelsea teammates on the pitch that has been lacking for the last 9 months or so. Whereas Kai Havertz has been the undisputed number 1 for the last few months. It's going to be really interesting to see whether Tuchel goes back to what he has done in the last few months with Werner and Havertz up front, or whether he sticks with who is the man in form for Chelsea now over the last week in Lukaku. So it'll be interesting to see what he goes for in that respect.
On form, I thought it interesting you mentioned Rudiger being someone that's very difficult for someone like a Liverpool to play against. His form of late, he's not even phoning it in. Like, he's fully already moved out and checked out everything. And that's my major worry for Chelsea going into this game, is that they've got players who I think don't care anymore. That's a massive worry. Maybe it's a cup final. He can get up for a cup final. Trust me, I'm hoping he does. But it is my worry a little bit that he's already decided he's no longer a Chelsea player and therefore doesn't care. Because when he's on form, he's absolutely sensational. And I think he'd be a big miss if he's not on form for them. And they're going to need him.
And not just him either. Christensen and Azpilicueta also linked with Barcelona. So half their defence is in Spain already, isn't it?
Yeah. I think Reece James is going to have a big hand in this because... And, Klopp's decision-making, not just in this game, but also in the final, does he go with Trent? How much of a gamble does he want to play? I think we're obviously going to cover the Champions League final one in due course, but I think he's got a lot of big decisions to make to get Liverpool over the line in this. Okay, Josh, let's get stuck in to the five-a-sides. What's Who Scored five-a-side?
Well, this is be a bit contentious with your one, but we've got Edouard Mendy to concede twice. As I said, he's got the worst save success rate in the Premier League since March heading into this game. And obviously Liverpool, only Bayern Munich are having more shots on target than Liverpool per game this season. So we've got Mendy to concede twice. We've got Thiago to make 2 tackles. With Fabinho out, Thiago's going to be even more important in that sort of defensive role. He's actually done that in 15 of his 17 domestic starts this season. We've gone for Loftus-Cheek to make just 40 passes. He's averaging 50 for the season, but obviously there's a risk whether he may play, whether he does start, if he completes 90 minutes, who knows. But yeah, we've gone for him to just make 40. As I said, Salah's stopped scoring goals, but is assisting them. We've gone for him to get the assist. Only since he joined Liverpool, only Son and Kane have combined for more Premier League goals than Salah and Mane with 22. And then that feeds into our final one. We've got Sadio Mane to score. He's their top goal scorer in 2022 with 13 goals. And that all comes in at 19-1. But I know from what you said before that we started recording that you two have got some big odds to come in. So I'll hand the floor to you guys.
What was your odds on that, did you say?
19-1, small fry.
So mine's coming in at 46-1, a slightly more ambitious one. I've gone for Henderson to be carded. I think, as Josh mentioned, Fabinho's out, and Henderson will probably play the number 6 position. And I think he can be caught a bit flat-footed these days. He's not the same athletic monster he once was. So I could see a booking happening there. I've gone for Van Dijk to hit 50+ passes. This is before I knew you could adjust the pass number though. So that's one for the viewers to do, to not make the same mistake that I did. So you can increase that number. Van Dijk does average a lot more than that, I think, in normal games. So yeah, Rudiger, I've gone for, again, 45+ passes. He's probably Chelsea's most main build-up option out from the back. Those lofted passes over the top are a trademark, really, and I think we'll see that against Liverpool's high line, particularly if Lukaku's playing, trying to find Lukaku over the top. Then also gone for Reece James, 2+ tackles. I think Luis Diaz will line up on that left-hand side. Liverpool look to feed him very regularly in 1v1 situations. So I think James will easily get that many tackles. I'll probably increase that one to around three if I wanted to as well. And then I've gone for Diaz to score. I think he is the most in-form Liverpool attacker at the moment. He found the breakthrough via deflection against Spurs. I don't see Salah scoring because of the Rudiger clamping down on him, really. So I've gone for Diaz. I think he will make the difference for Liverpool.
I've gone with Salah to have 3 shots because I still think he's getting his shots away. He's just not putting them away. Van Dijk to make 75 passes. This is me thinking Chelsea maybe sit off him a little bit and they'll let Liverpool kind of build it up amongst the centre-halves. I've gone with Jorginho to make 65 passes because he'll do that like warming up. Trent Alexander-Arnold to make 65 passes. He usually averages a little bit more than that. That one's a worry for me because I think he's probably going to play, but it wouldn't shock me if he didn't. And then this is the contentious one, I guess, because I think it might be Kepa that plays. So I've gone with Kepa to concede 1 goal, 86-1.
Especially if Tuchel listens to this, as I'm sure he will. He would have heard all the Mendy stats. And he might think, bloody hell, we need to put Kepa in goal.
I think it'd be a bit of a surprise if he did, but also fully justified, I think it's fair to say. Josh, what do you give us the T's and C's?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also the beauty of this game, is that if you don't have a player that plays or doesn't start, it doesn't actually matter. You're still in for chance of winning. You don't need all 5 of your selections to come in to win. It just depends on how the other players in your league get on. But yeah, so the terms are, so as always, there's over £1,000 in cash prizes to be won, including £500 to the winner. That's on top of whatever your bet odds are that lands, as well as free bets for any player that finishes in the top 25% of the league. All you have to do is select your lineup and place a minimum £1 stake and enter via our official league. You can find the link in the description of this page, or it will pop up on the screen when you go through the Chelsea Liverpool league page. Winning bets will be ranked from longest to shortest odds, while non-winning bets will be ranked by a percentage of the bet that lands, which may apply to you, Ste, or may apply to WhoScored, depending if it's Mendy or Kepa. So yeah, even if all 5 of your selections don't come in, you still have a good chance to win prizes. And this week as well, I should say, Ladbrokes are also giving away a free £1 bet to all entrants to our league. So you kind of get a free hit if you enter one team this weekend, and you'll get a free £1 bet back if you don't finish in one of the winning places. And honestly, this game just adds a new dimension to watching the game. I found myself cheering on the most pointless passes in the game, just tapping it around the back. I'm cheering them on. But yeah, hoping that it lands my bet. But yeah, as always, please do gamble responsibly.
All right, that's our FA Cup final preview. I'm sure I speak on the whole of humanity when I say, come on, Chelsea, get it done. But thank you to Raj. Thank you to Josh. Cheers to you guys. Make sure to subscribe. And we are coming back. Have we got a Premier League one before the final one?
I think, yeah, we've got a Premier League last day of the season special, and then the Champions League final.
Oh, some belters in there. So make sure to subscribe and stay tuned, and we will see you in the next one. Laters.